Man, I'm rusty. Rusty as rust can rust.
Yeah, I was thinking earlier too. Is like, yeah, I got to go record the podcast. I'm like, my fucking laptop is dead. I'm like, where's my cords? I don't know I forgot to plug in my Ethernet cord. Like, I don't know what to do.
This is why we never took a week off before.
Yeah,
It was like getting back into the swing is so hard.
yeah.
Time to get your fix. It's a horrible gaming podcast. It's not good, it's not great. Horrible gaming podcast. It's not even what you would call fair. It's really not that good. Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Hello! My name is Zachariah, and for whatever reason, you have decided to tune into another horrible gaming podcast. We're back. We took a week off. We finally did it after nearly 2 years, but we're back, and we got a lot of stuff to talk about. But by we, I am not alone, nor am I ever alone. With me is...
Neil, aka a tiny wizard.
Hello, Neil. Welcome back, sir. We took a week off. You feeling rested and rejuvenated?
As much as I possibly can be.
All right. Well, before we get into it, guys, and there's a lot to get into, we've got to just go ahead and thank a few people. Number one, Mr. Mark Bell. If you are watching this on YouTube behind the fancy timestamps, you're going to see fancy graphics. Those fancy graphics were provided by Mr. Mark Bell. He does that for all of our original graphics. I'm Rusty at the opening. The theme song, of course, is provided by the man who makes the music, my brother Nick Van Sliders, and we thank him for that. He also does all the music for every show here on the channel. Damn, I am Rusty.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, everybody, that brings us to the first segment of the show, probably the most important, and that is called Fanteraction. That is where us, the co-hosts, talk to you guys, the fans. We read out all your comments in all the places you put them, in all the places that we see, and we respond to them, we riff on them, we talked about them, blah, 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 blah. So these are from 2 weeks ago, because we did take last week off, but 2 weeks ago was our 100th show. I do want to just quickly, before we get into the actual comments, just thank Kev Too Tall for being here and moderating. He did a great job. And thanks to Filthy Phil, the other foundation member, for jumping on and just us talking about OMG for 2 hours, basically. Thank you to both of those guys for that.
And I'll tell you what, I said it in our little group chat afterwards. That was fun as hell.
It really was. And can I say, it's not at all what I wanted it to be, and it was great. It was absolutely great. It wasn't at all what I had in my head as a plan, and I thought it came out better than what I had in my head. It was just great. All right, so getting into the comments, we had a couple new commenters, Neil. I'm excited about this. Not a lot of comments, but a couple new commenters. First, we had Danny Orton. Danny from Britain. She has actually played with us on stream, Seeing Noobs. Danny, it's wonderful to hear from you. She says, this just sounds like a bunch of drunk men at the pub. I love it. Thank you, Danny. I'm such a lightweight that I actually was drunk. I was definitely drunk.
Yeah, I probably was too, because I didn't eat food that day.
There you go. There you go. Then Kev Tutal jumped in. Neil's Smash Brothers tournament could just as easily be done with Brawlhalla, since the game has good online multiplayer capabilities. And then he also added to that, which would allow Discord to be used. I don't necessarily disagree with that. Brawlhalla is awesome. We had actually, we talked about it last week, but we actually tried to back when Logan was on the show, we actually tried to organize a Brawlhalla tournament, and it just never kind of came to fruition.
I think I remember that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, organized tournaments are really hard. People think it's easy. It's way harder than just like getting one or two other people and doing a stream or doing a Let's Play. You know what I mean? It's very hard to organize those things. So never actually happened. But we might have one in the future. Who knows? And then, completely new commenter, William, and I'm going to botch your last name, man. Please don't be upset with me. Howin. 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 It's got like two O's and two U's in it. So I hope, I'm sure I did that wrong, and I apologize ahead of time, William, but thank you for the comment. He says, wow, congrats on the 100th episode. That's quite a milestone. Been listening to you quietly since I found your channel like 2 years ago, which is about when we started. Stumbled on it because of the Fallout 76 review. That is an old review, man. Old review. So you have been with us a really long time. Thanks for keeping me company while I'm working, and I look forward to the 1000th episode special. Yes, I'm sure I'll be dead by then, William, but thank you for your positivity, man. Thank you for your positivity. And it's good to hear from you, man. Feel free to comment anywhere. I have seen you in the Discord. I take really good internal purchase of who's in the Discord name-wise, so I recognize your name from the Discord, and it's great. I'm glad we keep you company. I'm glad we entertain. That's what we're here for. And I did actually respond to him also on YouTube and said, it is a pleasure to have you. Thank you for listening. I do want to say, though, I did not see his comment until today, and it's been 2 weeks, so I apologize for that, man, that it took me that long to get back to you.
Well, he's quietly listening.
That's true.
So
It's true. He's quietly
he heard
listening.
you.
He is not quietly listening. He's loudly listening without commenting. That's how I look at it, because every person who listens is very loud to us.
Does one loudly listen though?
You listen because we get to see the views and the likes and stuff. You know, your presence is known loudly just by listening.
See, I took that as my headphones are in, and my headphones are in, and I'm actively yelling about things that are happening, which is absolutely how you should listen to podcasts.
Yeah,
not really.
I don't know.
But yeah,
he's at work. I don't think that would be a good idea if he's just like at work typing away, and then he just starts screaming at the top of his lungs. I don't know if that'd work out for him. I don't know. But that's actually all our fan interaction. It was a quick, easy one this week.
Hey, that's fine.
Yeah. So unless you want anything to add, we can move on to our subjects.
No, I think that's good.
I'm excited about our subjects. I'm excited about them.
We actually have subjects.
We do have subjects. It's been a little bit, but we got subjects. We got a lot of subjects.
Yeah, that's the weirdest thing too. Is we have our 1 week where it's not about anything that's going on in the industry, and one of the things happens, and then the other one happens while we're off for a week.
Yeah.
So go figure.
Yeah, go fucking figure. Go fucking figure. We do have to kind of make the announcement here exactly what we're gonna do about the pizza bet.
Yeah, I mean we could get into it with the one though.
You think? You think we could?
Yeah, we could get in. We could get into it. Yeah, we can get into it over there.
I mean, in fairness, while I'm definitely not going to give you a pizza for this, if I were you, I'd argue, look, I said that the Switch Pro would come out. I never said that Nintendo would make it.
I won't. No, I can't do that. I don't like trying to weasel my way out of things like that. No.
That's fair. I appreciate your non-weaseling. Honestly, I just said it as a joke. I think it's a good joke. All right, let's go ahead and go on to our first topic.
Alrighty.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so that brings us to our first topic. And guys, we're talking about handhelds this week. It's all about handhelds this week because 2 of them were announced in the last 2 weeks, and they are. Some people say they're in direct competition with each other. Some people say they've got nothing to do with each other. Some people say one's good, one's bad. Some people say some are good. So it's all up in the air. So we've got to kind of give our opinions and point of view. So we're going to talk about the one that was announced. We're going to talk about it in chronological order. So Nintendo Switch OLED edition was announced by Nintendo. Everybody has been sitting, waiting patiently. The rumors constantly coming out that Nintendo has a Nintendo Pro, that they're going to release an upgraded Nintendo Switch version. It's going to be a Nintendo Switch Pro, blah, 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 over and over and over again. And then we get this. And I have to say, I am I am a little bit let down. I mean, there's been so much rumors that you and I have a pizza bet going, and
Yeah,
now it's
and
kind of we're unsure how to really handle it because I don't think either one of us kind of think of this as the Switch Pro, but at the same time, it is a new Switch model, so I don't quite know how to handle it. But let me just give the specs, and then we'll give our point of views. And if I miss one, let me know. Here's what the Switch OLED edition gets you. First of all, it's going to be $350 instead of the $299, right? I'm saying that right? Yeah. Instead of the $299 that a Switch is, it's going to be $350, so you got about an extra $50 there. And then what you're going to get for that is an extended screen. They extend it by I think like 7 centimeters. You are also going to get the capability to Ethernet connect to the internet, whereas right now your standard model Switches always work on Wi-Fi whether they're docked or not. And then I think I'm done. Was there something that I? Oh, and of course, it's an OLED screen instead of the normal Switch screen. And then I think that's it. I don't think they added anything else to it. Am I missing any big features? I think that's
uh,
that's the rundown, right?
I believe it's got different audio processing too, if I understand,
Oh,
because I
okay.
remember seeing an
Okay.
article that Metroid Dread is going to be the first game that's going to take advantage of that.
Okay.
Um,
All right. Okay.
so
We'll add that in the mix.
yeah,
That being said, I'll go to you first. What are your thoughts on this?
well, originally, whenever I was talking, we had mentioned about I was so certain that the Breath of the Wild sequel was going to launch on
Mm-hmm.
a Switch Pro, and it was going to be just like they've done with other Zelda games in the past, where they have
Mm-hmm.
the game come out on the previous console and the new console. I was convinced that they would have a Switch Pro and Breath of the Wild 2, whatever they're going to wind up calling it, was going to be across those two.
Right.
So then this gets announced, and I mean, for $50, okay. If you don't have
Okay.
a Switch already, there's absolutely value there. To
Okay.
pick that over the previous one. For an extra $50, you get a better screen. You know, you get the wired capability, bigger screen, better audio processing, all that good stuff. But if you have a Switch right now, there's no reason. Maybe if you have one of the OG Switches that had the smaller battery,
Mm.
maybe you can, in some realm, convince yourself to get it. Um, it's not. I think that the whole story of this is because of the internet hype. I mean, I bought into it too. That there's going to be this pro model coming out, and it's still not stopped. I should have saved the article earlier. I was looking through the news. They're talking about the uh, the next model of the Switch is going to be using NVIDIA's Lovelace structure
Oh,
with
for
it.
Pete's sake.
I'm like, stop.
Stop.
We
Yeah.
like, yeah, like literally stop. We just now are like we have the quote unquote Switch Pro that everybody thinks is the Switch Pro coming out. There it's not going to be like the new 3DS situation where there's some games that actually will not run on the previous hardware. You need the new 3DS to run games. It's
Yeah.
not anything but a refresh. It's not an upgrade that actually gives you performance difference outside of like what you can visually see in brightness and color detail. It's not doing better processing in the actual game performance. It
Right.
processes the audio differently, but that on its own is not enough to make somebody want to run out and, pick up something like that, at least in my eyes. I'm sure, given our current market, people are going to buy them all up and they'll be on eBay for $7,000 each and all this, that, and the other. But I mean, Nintendo's even said, like, it's not a pro, it's just an upgrade. there was a news story going around that they're actually going to be making more money off of that OLED upgrade, but they've since rebutted that and said no, that's not the case. But I haven't looked enough into that. But yeah, this is overall, yeah, it's an announcement of new hardware. Yeah, that's cool. I shared it with you, but like it's
Hmm.
not a pro. It's not anything to, blow the doors off of anything for.
I mean, okay. So I waited very patiently for you to get everything out. I want to point that out. I did not interrupt you. Um, but I have a couple of things to say on it, and I have a real tinfoil hat. I got to put my tinfoil hat on about this one, too.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, yeah. So I think you'll be interested with what I got to say because I don't necessarily think you're going to disagree with my tinfoil hat. We'll have to see. First of all, this is not a Switch Pro, but I will go one further. Stop talking about the Switch Pro. Nintendo has said repeatedly they're not making a Switch Pro. They have no interest in a Switch Pro. Are there people working on more consoles? Definitely, but there's no Switch Pro anytime soon. This right here is probably what people were catching rumors about, and that's the closest. You're not getting a big hardware update in 2022. This is it. Like this is what the Switch has. They're not working on it. You know what I mean? Like I don't know where
Yeah.
these rumors keep coming from, but I'm like even more so. There's no Switch Pro. Period. It is a unicorn, guys. Like not for any time soon. All right. That being said, I don't necessarily. I wouldn't. Okay, so I'm not going to put the tinfoil hat on right away. I'm going to say my initial impressions of this. My initial impressions of this were like, why? What the fuck are we doing here? Like, it's just the wireless in it's the wired connection. It's the bigger, slightly nicer screen, and okay, audio functions, whatever, but like audio functions are not going to be really what brings a lot of people in. You know what I mean? It's not
Right.
like the marquee lights and neon, sort of
Right.
thing. So what is this for? $50 more. Okay, if you don't have a Switch, you buy the OLED, I guess. But at the same time, Switch is known for having shitty online support. So the whole Ethernet cable plug-in thing, while people have requested it, it doesn't make much sense because they don't really have the facilities to really help you with that online support. There's not a lot of game. I mean, they're only just now releasing games that even do matchmaking. Like for the most part, you had to have a friend code to play with somebody. You had to know
Yeah.
them, and even then, there was no way to chat with them or talk with them. It was just like we're both in the same game doing it. Like you could use Discord, but you can't use Discord through the Switch either. So like, why? And then I started to fold my tinfoil hat together, Neil, and I started to put it on. And I came to a realization because, okay, why does everybody say that we need a Switch Pro? I'll answer. The reason people say that is because we are now in another generation of consoles. These generation of consoles are just going to start producing higher and higher and higher level games. Not that I necessarily think we need it as a whole. Overall, one of the things Switch has been able to do is take these AAA games, dumb them down, stick them in the handheld system, and even though they're not quite as good an experience, you get to play games like Skyrim and Witcher 3 and stuff like that on the Switch, right?
Yeah.
So, one of the big reasons people have said that it needs to be a Switch Pro is because you need to have some sort of 4K system to be able to deal with what PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X are going to start coming out with. I mean, in a way, you do because they're going to start leveraging that SSD. You don't have an SSD in the Switch. How are you going to deal with that? And that's when it kind of all came clear to me. I think this was rushed, just like you said, but I don't think it has anything to do with the rumors. I think it has to do with the fact that they realize the only way they're going to be able to keep up is streaming. And they can't really do streaming with the Wi-Fi. They tried it with Control. That was their big experiment. We saw that. Control you can get on Switch, but you can't download it to your system. That's why they force you to play a demo first to see if you want to, because you stream it, much like Project xCloud or the way Google Stadia works. So what Nintendo is doing is they need to put an Ethernet cable in their system so that people are able to stream the games that they're going to start pulling from AAA systems and putting in their storefront. This is a way to keep up with them in that fashion, and that is the option of streaming. And it's not going to even look as bad as Stadia is because you still have plenty of Nintendo's originals that work just fine, and it's going to be basically an option like, hey, we're making this available to you. So it's going to look like a boon, and it's going to look like it's going to look nice, whereas instead of like Google Stadia and the way they did it. You know what I mean? So my tinfoil hat is this is in direct response to that. They don't have a Switch Pro, not anything capable of doing what they need to do with it. So their answer for that is game streaming. And to do that, they absolutely need an Ethernet connection. Absolutely. They tried it with Control, and I think they tried it with one other game. I can't remember which game, but they tried it with those, and they were absolute disasters. Everybody said it's nice to have it in handheld, but you can barely play it because it's streaming, because it's on Wi-Fi. You need that jacked-in Ethernet port to be able to do it. This is in direct response to that. That's my tinfoil hat, man. I think I make a pretty compelling argument. What do you think?
You do make a good argument.
That's what I said. I'm like, I think you might be wearing that hat by the time we're done.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there might be something to that with the Ethernet. I wouldn't go so far as to say it's like this is why they are doing it because of that, but I definitely think that that has to have been a consideration. Because, like you'd said, the other game that you were thinking of was Hitman 3. And
yeah,
yes,
that's the one.
Yes, it absolutely, game streaming. Since I have started doing that a bit more, since I had that Razer Kishi, I can tell you for sure that Wi-Fi, unless you have a super strong connection, man, Wi-Fi is not it sometimes.
Right.
So if you can do that via Ethernet, yeah, absolutely, you can start doing that. I tend to believe Nintendo in that, yeah, they don't have a Pro in the works. I think that by the time that everything gets to where, the games are going to start, people are going to start asking for those ports of games that are on the PS5 and Series X.
Yeah.
I do think that they would have that time to develop whatever the Switch 2 or something like that is going to be.
Yeah.
I find it very hard to believe that they're going to abandon the idea of the Switch, especially because Nintendo's always had such a very strong handheld division, and they've now melded the handheld with the actual console.
Yep.
And that's just what it is now. You can't separate those things again.
No,
you can't go back to, you absolutely can't do that again unless you have something in kind of like the Series X does, to where it's like, okay, here's the version that's the base version, but here's the updated Series X next gen version,
Right.
to where they could have like something that's strictly a console box. They wouldn't call it the Switch, but it would play Switch games at a higher fidelity. But I do think that Ethernet absolutely can extend the longevity of games for the console via streaming, as long as, you have your internet for it.
Yeah. I think that, like, when you really look at this, like, Nintendo needs it to be. I don't think Nintendo has a Pro. I don't think so. Because when you really look at Nintendo, every system, like, they don't have pros. They don't make pros. That's not what they do. They make a system, and then they make another system. That's what they do. The only time you could even really compare it is the Wii U, and that wasn't a Pro. That was like a weird add-on hybrid thing. I feel like what Nintendo sees the future, and they're like, we need this system to last another 3 years. That's what we need. We need another 3 years out of this system, and right now we're not going to get that. We're going to get another year, maybe 2. We need another 3 full years out of this system before we can drop the new system on them, and the game streaming will allow them to do that. And I think that's why, I mean, when you really look at this system, the OLED, what they're giving you, it's all about that Ethernet port. Like it's the entire focus of their ad. Like that's I mean, yeah, it's called the OLED. I'm not arguing that, but the screen is only 7 centimeters bigger and it's slightly prettier. But like the thing that is really the feature that's going to excuse me everybody that's really launching that thing is that Ethernet standard port cable. That's what that I'm telling you that's what this system is all about. And
Yeah.
I think that eats into like I honestly the presence of this system and the focus on the Ethernet cable like reinforces my belief that there's no pro because that's what this is for. This is the stopgap. This is the finger in the wall that keeps the water out. Like that's what this is to get them through because now they can bring those AAA games here and they can say, look, the game is on Ethernet. You can play it here docked in an okay capacity, but you also get all our cool Nintendo games that work just fine on this system. And they're hoping that that together will keep them competing with PlayStation and Xbox. And honestly, I think it will, personally.
Yeah.
I think the Hitman and the Control were test runs, and then they realized that they could not do it without Ethernet. And I think the OLED, which was probably in a lab being worked on, but I think they were like, get an Ethernet portal on that. That is what this thing has to be all about, and then get it out the door.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
don't know.
I do think I think that there might be something to that for
Yeah.
sure. I think that Ethernet is going to extend the life
Yeah,
of
of the
of the
Switch.
Switch for sure. But at the same time, I mean, Nintendo kind of roundabout said it, but I don't think that the Switch needs a hardware revision yet because the
No.
Switch was never about power to begin with.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not. And the problem is though is they did kind of attach themselves to this like we make this AAA experience handheld.
Right.
And they kind of attach themselves to that and that might have been a mistake because they have a great indie library of just thousands of games and there's plenty of those coming out that they could have just been like, hey, you could play the Nintendo stuff and the indie stuff, but they kind of attach themselves to this like weird AAA port mentality where every AAA games that comes out for the other system, they're like, when are you going to put it on Switch? You know what I mean? And like
Right.
because of that, they have to find a way to like make that accessible to more people. And personally, I want to say this right now. I don't think there's value in the $50 one if you don't own it already. And the reason I say that is because most likely if you don't own a Switch already, you have a game system somewhere else. Like you're a gamer.
Right.
You like if you're a gamer and you don't have the Switch, you're playing on PC, you're playing on Xbox, you're playing on PlayStation 5. And if you're doing that, just buy the Switch 299 because the OLED is only good for that Ethernet portal and the only reason for it is for the AAA games that you're going to have a better experience playing on the other systems anyway. So you're only getting it for those like Nintendo ones you can't get anywhere else. Just get the older model. Just get it because you're gonna have fine fun with those.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I think we've covered the OLED. You want to move on to the big bad one that we got to talk
Let's
about?
go to the other one and compare them mercilessly.
Yeah, 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 definitely.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
That brings us to talking point numero deuce. Like I said, it's a handheld show, guys, because right after the OLED came out, you know what got announced? The Steam Deck. And honestly, I don't usually pay too much attention to these handheld PC things that come out that kind of look like the Switch because for the most part, they're all ridiculously expensive. Guess what? Steam Deck isn't. And that's why a lot of people are like making the joke that Steam released the Switch Pro without anybody else. So let's talk about the Steam Deck. Steam Deck will be able to play AAA games in handheld version. It does have a, I believe it's 1080p monitor?
720.
720. 720p.
720.
So it's nothing high def or 4K or anything like that, but it looks kind of like the Switch. It does not have detachable Joy-Cons, but it is handheld, and it will play your entire Steam library. But in addition to that, it has its own OS and will allow you to surf the web as well. So you can go on Discord through it. You can go on the internet web pages. You can use it as a computer if you want to. I don't know why you'd want to because it doesn't have a keypad, but whatever. You could use it in that way. It has that versatility. It also, and this is the big one, has SSDs inside. Holy mother. Holy
Yes.
mother, Neil. It has SSDs in a handheld. Do you ever think you'd live in a world that has SSDs in handhelds? I'm kind of shocked. So, in that way, I think it's the first ever handheld that's got an SSD in it. But that aside, I'm not going to look up that fact. The pricing is surprisingly affordable. Being its baseline model is $399, and it has a 64 gigabyte SSD. Now, in fairness, that's a pretty small SSD, just so you guys know. Then the next higher model is $529 with a 256 gigabyte SSD. I don't think my SSD is that big. Just so you guys know, in my full-size PC. So that's pretty big for $529. And then, of course, there's one higher model, which is $649, which I don't know how they have this valued at this, but it's 512 gigabyte SSD at $649. I mean, the pricing is extremely competitive with this handheld. And in my opinion, it's just a beast. It's an absolute beast of a handheld. I don't think there has ever been a handheld that brings this much power to the table. But I want to hear what you think about it, man, because we haven't talked about this at all. We've talked about the OLED a little bit, but we have not talked about the Steam Deck in any way, shape, or form. So what do you think about the Steam Deck?
I think this is interesting, and I pulled up just because you had the stuff up in front of you. I also Googled real quick.
Yeah.
Some other news stories that have popped up since. There's going to be a built-in frame rate limiter, so you can save on battery. That's also good for dialing down specs for some games. Valve claims that there is not a game that the Steam Deck can't handle so far. So I would be interested to see by what metrics they test that.
Yeah.
But
it also has a dock too. I forgot to mention.
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
it can also dock to your TV, like a Switch can.
The only thing you are paying for the storage speeds, and it's worth noting that the $399 version has eMMC storage, not NVMe, which is okay. I mean, it's fine. It's serviceable,
for a handheld,
but
it's kind of amazing.
Yeah, it's not super fast, but like I have something that's kind of like this. It's an Android based one, and it's got the eMMC storage, and it works fine for emulators and stuff like that I absolutely have legally, and nobody can ask any sort of questions about those at all whatsoever. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a good. It's good. It's awesome. It's great, but the second I saw the announcements for this thing, like this is something that they're going to have to keep up on. You can't just have the Steam Deck and never have another one ever again. And especially given the fact that it's coming from Valve, you're only ever going to get two. So I expected a laugh from that one. I thought it was funny.
I did. I'm laughing right now.
Thank you. After I brought it up.
I was laughing already. I don't know how you didn't hear me laughing.
It must have been the noise cancellation on Discord. We'll go with that.
I was laughing immediately.
But yeah, like it's so weird. I think that this is something that was in the works, and I don't think that Valve planned on announcing it yet, because from what I'm seeing, it's slated for summer next year.
It's December 2021. It's this year.
December 2021?
I'm on Steam's webpage. It's December 2021.
I read that wrong. If you don't get your reservation in, chances are you're not going to get it until summer
Right,
2022.
right.
I'm looking at Games Radar right now, so I misread the lines of it. I don't think that this was expected to be announced when it was. I think that Nintendo put theirs out there and like, oh yeah, handheld. This isn't the Switch Pro, and Steam just swooped in on everybody's disappointment and like, you want a Switch Pro? Here's
Mm-hmm.
a Switch Pro.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the fact that it's going to be running a custom OS, but from what I understand, it can also run Windows.
Yeah, it
So I
actually
mean, it's
can. You can
it's a
switch out the
full
OS.
yeah, it's a full computer
Mm-hmm.
too. So that's I mean that's great. You'll be able to do a lot more things with it. I just
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I don't know how this is going to go in the long run. I know that people are going to pre-order the crap out of this. They're all going to get bought up. They're all going to get thrown up on eBay. We all know
Yeah.
that's going to happen. Same with the
Well,
OLED Switch.
they actually have a little like a way to fight scalpers. They're doing
Uh,
they're ordering in a way to fight scalpers. There was a big story on IGN. I didn't actually get to read the whole thing, but they have a special a special queue that people are hailing as like the way everybody should be doing it because it somehow keeps the scalpers from buying up like 17,000 of them. I don't know how
well,
they're
I mean,
doing it, but
there's gonna be people who are going to try to buy it with the explicit purpose
of
of
selling.
reselling it.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
I mean, again, it's just gonna come back to that. But I think that this is awesome. I think that I wouldn't call it a Switch killer just
No.
because Nintendo. We've seen many other handhelds come and go over the years. The ones that have tried,
Mhm.
Sony tried. Sega tried back in the day, the
Right.
Jaguar, all of those, and they never had the lasting power, the staying power. Nintendo's got it on lock, and I think that just from the advertising that I've seen of it and the coverage of it, I don't think that they are trying to be a replacement for the Switch, which is smart because I don't think that this is something that can take out the Switch per se.
I think first of all, I definitely think that like while I don't think this is a Switch killer, and I don't necessarily think that they want to take out Switch, they really need to shut their mouths on that just because there's no way you didn't launch this a week after the OLED came out and weren't taking a big swing at Nintendo. There's just no way you weren't throwing a punch at them. So, like, to throw the punch and then come out later and be like, oh, we never intended it for it to compete with Nintendo. Yes, you did. Or you wouldn't have announced it the week after OLED. You just wouldn't have. And I think that, like, that is. I think this is definitely a competitor for Switch. I don't think it's going to kill it. Don't get me wrong, but in the way that Sony is a competitor for Xbox, this is definitely a competitor for Switch. And I wouldn't say that if it wasn't so affordable. And I wouldn't say that if it couldn't run the AAA games that Switch can't. But it can, and it is. So like
Yeah,
I don't think it's gonna kill Switch because nothing can kill Switch because Switch is Nintendo and Nintendo has Mario and Zelda and Metroid and these like franchises that just draw people in. You can't get any of that on the Steam Deck. You can only get that on Switch, and that's how Nintendo has stayed alive. Period. Like that's where they make their marketing. I mean, don't get me wrong, Switch is good, and they did almost lose it with Wii U, but as long as their system is serviceable and they have those games on it, they're going to be around, you know?
yeah. Um,
But to say
I
that this isn't a competitor in any way, shape, or form, I think this is the first PC handheld that is a competitor. I think this is the first time, honestly, I think this is the first handheld anything that's a competitor to them.
yeah. I think though Nintendo and Steam are in different corners. They're targeting different people, is what it is.
Well, and
Because
they are.
there are people who see the Switch as just literally just like a toy
Mm-hmm.
and like a
Mm-hmm.
joke
Yeah.
console, even though with the Switch's success over the years now.
Right.
Um, and I mean, those comparisons, of course, inevitably are going to be drawn, but to directly compare them in what they do, yeah, sure, they're both portables, but they're both aiming for two totally different experiences.
Again,
What?
though, that's what I was saying about the
Right.
how Sony and Xbox are competitors. They approach it completely different as well. You know, like, and I
Yeah.
feel like that's the same way. Like Steam's a competitor to Nintendo. It's just they've got a completely different playbook. You know.
Yeah. And I want to know too how this stacks up against we did something, it was about a year or so ago, I think it was, the Alienware.
Yes.
Alienware
Yeah.
had prototyped something along these lines.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is something that's been in the wheelhouse for a while. I mean, we haven't heard anything about Alienware's thing in a while, and I would not be surprised if within the next few months they are like, "Hey, here's another showing of our thing."
The thing about the
Because
Alienware though one was we were hearing that the pricing of that was like over a
through
thousand
the roof.
dollars. Yeah.
But the specs, from what I remember, the specs were like an actual like
Right.
desktop computer, which is
Right.
insanity.
It is
Um,
insanity. I mean, at that point, buy a desktop because you can't use a handheld like that. You know, you don't have a keyboard or anything.
right.
Like, I think that the reason this is a competitor, let's not dance around the point. The reason this is a competitor in any way, shape, or form is because it's $50 more than the OLED. It's $50 more. That's it. Like, if you don't own a Switch right now, if you don't own a Switch right now and you don't care about Nintendo properties, buy the Steam Deck. It's $50 more, and you could play. Like, if you're just looking for portability on AAA games, there is bar none nothing out there that can compare to the Steam Deck, and it's only $50 more than the most expensive version of the Switch. That's why it's a competitor. That right there, it's the price. I mean, everything else is like icing, but the price is a fucking killer.
Yeah.
I
See,
was so blown by the price. So blown away
yeah.
by the price.
I mean, for sure, it is a shocker.
Yeah.
Especially with the fact that the storage can be expanded with an SD card.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I understand, an article I was reading the other day about it, that you can actually expand the SSD in it. That also said, you probably don't want to do that.
Right, right.
But um, for me, what I'm thinking is the the Steam Deck, you probably want to have Steam already, an established Steam library. But chances are, unless you're a strict only like PC Master Race gamer, you have another console of some sort and probably already have a Switch. I personally would not want to go rush out and buy the Steam Deck because A, I already have a Switch, and B, I don't have a Steam account. So, I
Okay.
mean,
Okay,
you
but
you
here's the
get
here I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt, but here's the thing, and this is the functionality that I'm not sure that you can do or not, but this thing connects with the internet, period. Can I run my Games Pass on it? Like, if it runs like a PC, I run my Games Pass on a PC. Like, if I put Windows on this thing, can I just run my Games Pass on this? Because if I can, holy shit. Or like even Epic Store. Like my thing is yes, obviously this is made directly for Steam. It's made for a great Steam library, but does this give you the PC functionality to actually use games from other places? Cuz if you can, then that is even more of a game changer, you know?
I believe you will be able to,
Right.
which is that's definitely big.
Huge.
That's almost like I can't even describe it. It's almost
Yeah.
as if Microsoft made like a portable system, but they didn't even, like, a completely different
Right.
company did the
Right.
legwork and everything. Like,
Right.
hey, we made this thing for you. Well, alrighty then.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, this thing, like, that's the thing for me is it's so versatile. Like, the Switch is not versatile. Like, I mean, physically both systems are the same amount of versatility, but the Steam Deck has just so much versatility to what you can do with it because it's basically like a little PC that, like, man, I'm really excited to see what you can do with it. And yeah, you definitely get the upside if you have that Steam library. I'm not disagreeing with you. Yeah, I have an okay Steam library, so it would be kind of cool for me. But if I could use my Steam library, my Games Pass library, and my Epic Store library on this handheld, holy shit! That's huge to me. You know?
Yeah, for sure. Um, at the same time, though, you'll probably need like a 1 terabyte micro SD card, depending on what it is that you're trying to play on the Steam Deck. Because thing like with the Switch, sure, it's a portable console,
Mm-hmm.
but if you have physical games like I tend to, chances are you still have to cart around those physical games as
Right.
well, which is fine by me. I've got no qualms with that. But you're going to have the storage to back that up, and that's almost why I think that the middle of the road version of the pricing tiers, why I feel like that might be the one that people really gravitate towards,
And
because
honestly,
you can get a lot of your smaller games on there with maybe like one or two big ones.
well, and that's the thing too. I mean, personally, my standard store, my SSD, I think my SSD is actually a 512. I'm not sure. I have it. Hold on, let me look at my sheet here. Yeah, 512. I have a 512 on my PC. Okay, the one I built.
Yeah,
And I bounce things around. You know what I mean? Like with this, I will say the 64 gigabyte one is a little bit small. The big problem with the 64 gigabyte one is there's a lot of games out there that are more than 64 gigabytes. Like
right.
just right off the bat. So like some of those are precluded from being on that. So while that pricing is very comparable to the Switch, I think you're much smarter to get that 529. But the thing is even that is such a heavy value. Like you think like my PC, I spent like almost like $1,300 on it. And like I have a better monitor and I have some other better things on it, but this Steam Deck is $649 for 512 GB. That's the same SSD I got. So
Yeah,
like that's crazy to me that that's that cheap. And it's handheld and I could plug it into my TV. Like it's its own console almost. So
yeah,
like that's really interesting too. Like I could literally plug this into my big screen TV upstairs and play my Steam library on my TV like a console. Or I could just fucking use it like I use my Xbox. I don't know. There's just so much versatility here. I think it's just such an amazing product. And no, I probably won't be purchasing it because I have a PC and I have a Switch and I don't do a lot of handheld stuff. The other thing is if I ever bought a handheld for the amount of money they're asking, I'd never take it out of the house and then it kind of defeats the purpose of having it.
right.
I'd be so scared it'd break. I'd be so scared it'd break. I'm like, I ain't gonna take that in a fucking car. $600 goddamn dollars. But yeah, I don't know. There's just something. I just think it's such a cool piece of hardware. I didn't even think something like this was possible, honestly.
I do. Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool. I think I've been a little bit more negative on it than you
No,
have.
you
I do
haven't
think
had
it's.
bad points. I don't think
I
that you were wrong at all.
I think though, like this, something like this, I would see as like a test
Mm,
of Nintendo's hardware and their idea. Because if this comes out and it turns out to be the new Switch, I mean, sure, like I said earlier, it's not going to be like a Switch killer, but it's definitely going to have Nintendo is going to have to reconsider
yep.
some things.
Yeah.
And also, the flip side of it, if this thing comes out and sure, it moves units right out of the gate, but outside of that, there's not
Excuse me.
much staying power, almost like the PSP. When
Yeah.
the PSP started, PSP came out, everyone wanted it's like it's PlayStation's Game Boy. It's awesome, and it did well for a little while, but then it just kind of dropped off, and
Let me
then
go
they
ahead
did.
and jump in. The thing with the PSP though is you had to buy games specifically for the PSP. With this thing, you get your Steam library from your Steam account from your PC. Period.
Which is
So,
fair.
like, it crosses over. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to buy the Tekken 5 for PSP to have it be transportable, I can just buy it once for my PC and have it wherever the fuck I want, you know? And that, I think that is the thing that kind of gets it out of that trap. I do agree, though, that we'll have to see how it does in the long run and how well it does when it comes out, because while IGN's done a preview of it, they're not really allowed to say anything bad about it, you know? So, like, we'll have to see when it comes out. But, I mean, if it does what they say it does, I think it's a breakthrough of technology, personally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Did you want to add anything else to it, or you want to jump into odds and ends?
Now let's go ahead with odds and ends.
All right. Well, let me ask you one more question. Which do you buy if you have neither? Do you buy the Steam Deck or do you buy the OLED? If you don't have a
Crap.
Switch,
Um,
it's tough, right?
yeah, and I think it comes down to where, like, what type of person you are. I
Right.
really think that this is one of those what type of person you are things.
Right.
So, like, if I was me myself, objectively, I would probably go for the Steam Deck. Just comparing the two, it's like, yeah, I can buy games, but I can, bring those with me. But at the same time, if I was somebody who wants to get into gaming for the first time, or had like an old granny buying a gift for a child, something like that, I would definitely go to the Switch,
Right.
because I feel like the Steam Deck kind of has a higher bar of entry. Not that it's like a huge barrier to entry, but I think when you compare those two, what they do for someone like you and I,
Right.
like, sure, yeah, like Steam, this, that, and the other, we can compare all these different metrics back and forth because this is, what we are really into. But somebody who is on the outside, like, they want it, like a mother wants to buy something for their kid and they don't know anything about anything, unless they explicitly say, I want the Steam Deck, I would definitely go with the Nintendo Switch because of the brand recognition and simplicity and all these other things.
Okay. So let me answer that question too and tweak it slightly. First of all, I'm always going to buy the Switch because I didn't buy the Switch for the portability. I never have. I don't take the Switch out of my house. Just like I just said with the Steam Deck, it's too expensive. I'm too afraid it'll break. I don't take it out of my house. I like to move it around the house and like play on the couch or play in her room. But I bought the Switch for the games that were only on the Switch. So no matter what, I'm getting that Switch for those games. Just period. However, I do want to say this for a person, and this is speaking from experience, because the reason I took so long to get a PC was because of the technology stuff. I have a hard time keeping up with the baseline technology. I'm very good, I think you'll agree, I'm very good at keeping up with video games and video game trends and console stuff. Like, I'm very good at keeping up with that. I'm not so good with keeping up on, like, the graphics cards and the SSDs and what I need to do with them and stuff like that. And I often end up asking Kevin or Phil what I need to do to update the PC. And that was one of the things that, like, kept me from getting the PC as long as I did. If they had announced this Steam Deck before I got the PC and before the Series X and PlayStation 5 come out, I would have gotten this instead of my PC. Because I would be able to play everything with Phil. I wouldn't have to worry about the upgrading or whatever. I could use it on my TV like a console. I could use it in the exact same way that I use my Xbox upstairs, which is slowly breaking down on me. And, like, it would have been perfect for me. It is, like, literally a versatile console that I could just play, you know what I mean, all the PC stuff on and keep up with everybody else for only like $649. That's a steal in my opinion, especially if I could play it upstairs online. I would have bought this and probably a controller with it, and that would have been that. So that's something I do want to point out, and I don't know that everybody would agree with me, but if I wasn't on a PC, I probably would have purchased this. So, all right, I think we're done with this. Let's move on to odds and ends.
Alrighty.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
That brings us to what's going to end up being our final segment because Neil continues to duck me on the horrible arena. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. We just don't have time. But odds and ends. That's where we collect smaller news stories. We talk about them. We riff on them. This is something we want you to hear about, but don't necessarily deserve an entire talking point. So, and I forgot, Neil. I actually have 6. So if you don't mind, I'll go first.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So the first one I want to talk about might actually steal one of yours, but EA Play sucked balls. That's really the entire odds and ends. But I really want to talk about the weird anti-hype strategy they went with because they were like, we're gonna do 4 shows and then a 5th big one. Mass Effect isn't going to be there, and neither is Dragon whatever. Those aren't going to be there. Oh, okay, all right. So Star Wars will be there. Star Wars isn't gonna be there. Star Wars isn't gonna be there. But Dead Space will be there, and that'll be it. And then they had the show, and that's what it was. Like, there was no surprises.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't.
Why do that? Why did they just kept hammering people before the thing. Why would anyone watch that by the time it got there? They had already announced that 4 of their most prominent series weren't even going to be there,
They said everything that wasn't gonna be there.
Right.
And then basically, essentially, there was all of the evidence in the world pointing to Dead Space being a thing, the remake of Dead Space, which honestly, that was the only thing I really cared about in that entire thing because I'm not a big spooky guy. Dead Space is absolutely amazing, and I'm gonna be getting that when it comes out.
Well,
but
that's awesome. I'm not saying that's a bad announcement, but we all knew that was going to be an announcement.
Right. And this whole show, it was the whole thing. It was and they use the slot that people usually take to announce and do things after E3 that they don't want to get buried.
Right.
So this is usually when we get the next wave of big stuff that didn't show at E3. So this was where I was going to expect. I was expecting something with Dragon Age because this thing's been in development for goddamn ever.
But they announced no Mass Effect, no Dragon Age before they even started the first show.
Right, and that's the thing. Yeah,
even Phil, when we were talking about it on the 100th, was like, "I bet you Fallen Order 2 will be there." People are saying that's being worked on. And we were all like, yeah, that's definitely going to be their surprise showing. And then almost like they heard us and wanted to destroy any possibility of us being excited about the show, announced it 2 shows in, just so you know, Fallen Order won't be here anywhere. And I'm like, why have 1 show, much less 5? You're out of your minds.
Yeah, and I remember, I think it was last year, Microsoft wanted to do something like that. They were like, well, we're going to do a show a month for a year straight. And they did 3 and then 2 or 3. Yeah. And they were like, this probably isn't the greatest idea because we don't really have anything to show. And that's fair. There's something to be said for oh, hey, we want to temper expectations.
Right.
There's something to be said for that. But if they were to take everything that they showed over the past few weeks and just add it to the big show at the end, I think that it would be maybe a little bit more favorable. It still would be a trash show, in my opinion, at least.
Right.
But I think that it would at least would have been oh, so they did have something to show for it.
Right.
It was all the quote unquote big show was just Battlefield and racing, and they had that new IP, the something about Lost in Random or something like that.
Yeah, but that's not a marquee thing.
Right, that's not a marquee thing.
It's one of those EA loves indie sort of games, and it's that's awesome. That's fine, but how is that on your main? This is so stupid.
And Dead Space again, we knew it was coming. We didn't see any gameplay. It was just the teaser for it. A lot of just ambient shots. Which it's fine enough. I was like, yeah, okay, cool. We know that this is a thing. But outside of that, all they've said is, yeah, we're remaking the game from the ground up with a new team. And that's it.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
All right, your first one.
All right. Well, 8 years later, Skull and Bones is finally playable in alpha.
What? Who said
Holy
that?
crap!
I didn't see that anywhere. How did
Shit,
I not see a Skull and
I
Bones
should have kept
reference?
this. I absolutely have to with some of these, like copy paste the link that I saw it. I mean, at the rate it's going, the game should make beta by 2029.
You
So,
know what? I'm pre-ordering and getting it day one. Just because of devotion. Like those motherfuckers, there's still like a team like, no, we won't quit. We're releasing this game. I
yeah,
just respect that. So like, okay, all right, you're gonna get it out there, huh?
I want to know what it is. Like, I don't like you getting down on things as soon as they get announced or anything like this, or like with having no actual hands on with it.
Yeah.
But they have to know that this is not going to make their money back.
Well, yeah. That's one.
Like,
Unless it's a big time games as service, but like the
even
thing.
even that though, like I don't know, that on its own is going to turn off a subset of people. So I mean, they got to
I
hope
mean,
people have open ass wallets for
yeah,
whatever
but
it
they
is that they
will.
end up putting out.
I mean,
Uh,
you look at Ubisoft's strategy for that kind of stuff, like For Honor, Rainbow Six Siege, like The Division. They love to bring out a game and just keep it the fuck alive forever. So like in that respect, if they do it like Ubisoft does it, they're gonna release it and they're just gonna keep making it for just years and years and years until it will make money. It'll make money for them eventually. It'll be a constant revenue stream. I will say though that they have said this game is like three different things. Like when it first was announced, it was a 5v5 ship combat thing. Like
yeah.
and then they were like, no, 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 it's gonna have ARPG elements where you quest for stuff. And then it was like, oh, it's gonna be kind of like Sea of Thieves. And it was like, no, 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 it's not gonna be like Sea of Thieves. You're gonna have your own ship and AI crew. And it's like they've announced this game like other than the fact that it's pirates, I have no idea what this game is gonna be at all.
Yeah, and that's pretty much that's literally what everyone is saying. I have they ever actually shown? Well, I mean, it doesn't matter if they did or not because
No.
from what I understand, they've already restarted development anyway.
Right.
So anything that they would have shown that was actual gameplay is probably not even accurate anymore.
Right. Right.
So I am I if this ever comes out, I am absolutely hella interested to seeing what this actually winds up being.
Well, you know what? For my next one, staying on the Ubisoft train, they have announced that their next mainline Assassin's Creed game is not going to be like an entry. It's going to be called AC Infinity, and they're aiming for a seasonal Fortnite like upgrade. A lot of people have said, ooh, it's going to be a battle royale. I don't actually think it's going to be a battle royale. I think what they're saying, the Fortnite part is that it's going to be like a games as a service, just ongoing sort of online experience, which is interesting. I don't know why they would do that with one of their signature franchises, but I think it's more so that they see what they're making off of Rainbow Six Siege, The Division, For Honor, and they kind of want to do that or try to do that with Assassin's Creed. Don't know that it's a good idea, but
No, I don't think it's a good idea because the difference between something like Assassin's Creed and these other games, sure, like Assassin's Creed games in the past have had a multiplayer mode, but it is a single player experience.
right, right,
So to take something that is a single player experience and to turn it into a live service, a lot of people, that myself included, if you are playing a single player game and it gets turned into a live service, you are already red flags everywhere. And Halo Infinite, I mean, Halo
right,
Infinite's one of those things, but it kind of works with Halo Infinite because the multiplayer has slowly been creeping that way as it is,
right,
and the multiplayer itself has been cordoned off. It's like this is going to be the free to play game as service thing,
right,
and the actual campaign is going to be like the game ass game thing.
right.
So that's fine. And if they want to go that route, if they want to do like a multiplayer online half and a single player half, cool, fine, whatever. But I think it would be a bad idea to never release another Assassin's Creed game and just
Right.
keep updating the same one over and over again.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that you can do kind of a story driven games as service. You have to be very, very, very smart about how you do that. I don't know that Ubisoft has that kind of social intelligence to really do that. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
you have to really be devoted to telling the story first, and then everything else is just cool add-ons to it. You know, like I would love like we get a main storyline, and then we get like just constant drops of story to the game that are free that come with the seasonal updates, and you can do it with your friends, and that would be cool. Kind of like how they did the Division. But again, it's real tricky to do that right. And while the Division was good and a lot of people play it and like it, it was also commercially a failure according to them. So we'd have to see how that goes, you know?
Right.
All right. I'm going to do one more just because I realize I actually had seven.
Oh my God, they're multiplying.
Yeah, this is the only multiplying one. I forgot to put this one on here, and that is Riders Republic was delayed one more time, making my prediction exactly correct. Neil, exactly correct on Riders Republic. I want to just point this out. I never predict things exact, but they said they were coming out in February when they showed it last year. They delayed it. They said it's going to come out later in the year. That's when I was like, this exact thing happened to Watch Dogs Legion. It came out end of October. They announced that it was actually going to come out mid September. And at that point, I was like, hey, my prediction's pretty close. Awesome. But they've delayed it one more time. And guess when they've delayed it till, Neil?
The end of October.
The end of October, baby. I told you. I told you. I was like, this is the
That's
exact time. I was like, yes.
I
Yes.
can't
I've proven
remember.
right.
Is that one of your year predictions that we did at the beginning of the year?
No, I don't think so. I do not think that was one of the
I
year
know that
predictions.
I know
That
there
was
was
just a
another.
prediction that I
Yeah,
like
it was just
pointed
a
out.
prediction at some
Yeah.
point. Yeah, because I remember having the conversation, but
Yeah.
I couldn't remember if it was a part of our
No,
year
I don't.
long predictions.
I don't think it was. I don't think it was. But I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of it. Like I was like when it I even sent you a message when they delayed it again. I was like, Neil, I'm even more
Yeah,
right now.
yeah.
uh,
If I remember correctly, I was floating around in a pool at that point.
there you go. All right, your next one, and then we're back on
um,
track.
so just because I invoked its name a little bit ago, the beta plans for the Halo Infinite will be announced soon.
Okay.
The flighting is set to begin as early as this coming weekend. They've said that what they are going to do with the first round of flighting is going to be based around like the game basics. So they're going to primarily focus on they're going to have bots in multiplayer, and it's going to be like a single player against the bots situation, and you'll
Hmm.
be able to change their difficulty and this, that, and the other, and they'll be able to test some of the new weapons and the balancing of the weapons, and they're going to take that information and do like tweaking with that. So
Interesting.
um, I hope I get it because I've been signed up for both my computer and the Xbox since last year when they
Nice.
opened beta. So the beta registration. So I'm hoping and praying that I get myself an email here. I'm sure it's gonna fall on days that I work and I won't be able to do anything during the times, and I'm gonna hate everything. But yeah, but it's coming. They said that they're going to have this first round of flighting with just the bots and everything, and they're going to slowly expand out into the actual like online multiplayer. They're going to be testing a couple other maps as well.
um, that's that's phenomenal. I hope you get in, because I
Yeah,
really want you to do something on that. I really, really, really do.
yeah.
Um, all right, so I'm sticking with Ubisoft, man. I got some
All
more
right.
Ubisoft. I'm just keeping the thread going. This was a little bit frustrating, but we heard from this was a little bit ago. We heard that it is still too early to hear any new news about Beyond Good and Evil 2 from Ubisoft. What the fuck do you mean it's still too early? First of all, Beyond Good and Evil 1 came out like, what, 20 years ago at this point? And
Something like
so,
that.
and then you announced Beyond Good and Evil 2, I think like 6 years ago? Like 5 or 6 years ago, I feel like. So what the fuck do you mean it's still too early to hear anything? Like, is this a game or
So
not? Did you just make a trailer once and then that was it? Like, Jesus Christ, this is some bullshit. And this speaks to the reason that if I don't see a release date or gameplay footage, I don't want anything to do with any trailers. I'm not getting any you're not getting any excitement out of me. It's why Xbox, in my opinion, lost E3, and you're not getting anything out of me until I have a date and gameplay. Fuck you guys. Fuck you games.
So I actually recently started watching this YouTube channel, and the guy, the show is called "What Happened." It's just it just goes and just like examines movies and games, mostly games, movies from time to time, and with troubled developments and everything like that. And one of the episodes that he did was on Beyond Good and Evil and Beyond Good and Evil 2. And it's rare because of the videos that I watch, he doesn't really tackle games that have not come out yet. But from what I understand of what he showed in the video, that I'm going to wager that the issues they're having is the scope. They originally wanted for the original Beyond Good and Evil to have like multiple handcrafted worlds. They didn't want to use procedural generation for something like that. Inevitably, I've not played it, but I guess the first game parsed it down to just a handful of worlds. But I think that they wanted that the development has been, from what we've seen, has been more of the vein of what they originally wanted to do with the first game. And I think that they are just stuck on that, and it's just going endlessly. I know they were doing crowdsourcing for music and stuff like that they were going to use in the game. I remember that call going out for like use of assets and everything. Anyone wanted to submit stuff for it, so they're probably sifting through all that. I'm sure that's a whole legal headache.
That's a train wreck. It's a train wreck.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't think that they're, at least at this point, given the fact that, Skull and Bones is still kicking around, I don't think they're gonna cancel this thing. I think it's just gonna languish forever, and when it finally comes out, it's not gonna live up to the hype.
No, it definitely won't. It's Duke Nukem Forever all over again. All right, your next one, man.
All right. I am not doing well.
Well,
Sony.
We're almost done.
Yeah. Sony is apparently doing a refresh of the PS5 all digital edition already. It's not changing the overall look or anything like that, but from what's been shown online, leaked online at least, of patents, and I believe a SKU that has shown up in China or Japan, it cuts about 1 pound off of the weight of the console and adds a new screw mount to the console. Sure. Okay. Great. Can people get them? Like the regular ones first?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, sure, I have mine, whatever, but like, yeah, I don't know what the point is, unless it's, to try to push the production of them along to make more, which fine if that's the case, but if you're cutting things out like that, I can't imagine that, anything that would make a difference is going to make a difference in the right direction, like performance-wise.
Right.
They're just cutting weight off of it. I mean, sure, whatever, that's fine, but I don't know. Weird.
Why would you add anything at this point? Just make more. Just make more. That's what we need.
Right.
All right. So keeping in tone with the fuck you game developers feel of my odds and ends. Elder Scrolls 6 is only in the design phase. That's right,
I
guys.
saw
Only
this.
in the design phase. Announced 3 years ago, 4 years ago, only in the design phase. So, as I said before, fuck you, Bethesda. That's it
I
for that one.
Yeah,
We're gonna move on.
I just imagine like I feel like everybody found out that they're officially working on Elder Scrolls 6. Like the developers and everything. Like all
Yeah.
at once found out at that point. Some one dude put a video together and
Yeah.
Todd Howard just threw it up there and they're
Yep.
like, "Oh, oh, did you know about that? No, no,
We
we're
don't even
having a
have a team
meeting
on
on
that.
Monday. We're having a meeting on Monday. Nobody told us what it's about. I'm assuming it's this." Like they did something kind of the same along the same lines with Kingdom Hearts 3, which was wild,
Right.
but
Right.
and we see how long that took.
Right.
And this is Bethesda. So what year do you think it's even going to come out? I'll call right now. I'll call 2025.
I'm gonna be dead. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
be
I'm
dead,
going to be
man.
dead.
I'll be long past life by the time that game comes out. I've given up on that one. Given up on that one. Yeah, your next one, man.
All right. So there's a closed beta for a game that Amazon's making called New Worlds.
It's
Um,
almost out.
yeah, it's got a teeny tiny itty bitty baby glitch. It bricks EVGA 3090s. So
Just a small
I,
glitch.
yeah, it's just a
Small
tiny glitch. It just bricks your $1,500 graphics card. It's fine.
Nukes your fucking
Um,
computer.
Uh, EVGA, to their credit, has announced that they're going to replace all the brick cards at no cost, which is great. But
You can't get them. Where are they gonna
yeah,
get them from?
I mean, unless EVGA has some that they've held back, which if that's the case, fine that they were going to go out for sale, but instead they're going to make things right, and if that's what they're going to do, that's fine. But
Right.
I cannot fathom that they have enough to cover all of everybody who's been bricked.
Yeah, that's insane. That's insane. All right. So my next one is a little bit more bad news. Blizzard is in a ton of hot water lately, especially
What?
with the Warcraft.
No.
Yeah, they got sexual harassment suits out the butt. Their CEO is apologizing to people. They've got sit-ins in their games right now. And on top of that, this news story just came out that Blizzard actually actively took pre-order money, knowing that a game was not going to be ready to be released. First of all, I think a lot of companies do this and just don't tell us about it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, people found out about it, they're pissed. Like, what do you mean we're paying you when you know the game isn't coming out? You know?
Yeah.
So, shady shit all the way around.
Yeah, to your point, I mean, with, patches being a regular thing as it is, people just pushing things out the door. I mean, yeah, sure, everybody does that now to some effect. They take the pre-order knowing that the game's not ready. You buy the game, you bring it home, you get a day one patch of like 100 gig,
Yep.
and that doesn't even always fix all the problems. I mean, look at
Very
something like
rarely does.
Cyberpunk. It's had update on update on update. I cannot imagine how big the actual updates are now because we haven't had our PS5 hooked up. It hasn't been
Right.
turned on in a hot minute. So I can only imagine the number of updates that we have for that game.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is absolutely 100% not shocking.
Yeah. Still, Blizzard needs to do something because, man, they are getting some. I think they're actually going to start. Like, when it's so bad, people are actually having sit ins in your game. Like, they're literally, the quality of your game is starting to falter because of your poor business practices. Like, time for a change, guys. Time for a change.
Yeah.
I think you got another one, right?
Yeah, I got one more.
Sweet. Good.
So the Olympics is going on,
Okay.
which is great. And the opening ceremony was a couple days ago.
Okay.
And during the opening ceremony, to introduce different countries, they used some video game music. actual orchestrated video game music.
Really?
They had, Olympus Coliseum from Kingdom Hearts got used, Final Fantasy theme song, music from Nier, a couple other
Really?
games. They actually did the live band orchestrated, from what I understand. There's a couple video clips of different nations teams walking across the field with the music playing.
That's
But I
cool.
think it's really cool because I
Yeah.
mean it fits, and it's basically, it's in Japan this year.
Right.
So I mean all of these things are exports of Japan. So it all fits, and that's really cool. I
Yeah.
really liked it.
That is really cool. That is really cool. All right, my final one is I always like to end on a happy note if I can, and I'm super excited because this is one of my favorite games. I love playing this game. I've played it on stream multiple times, and that is Warframe. They just had their TennoCon, which is their big kind of like trailer dump slash like convention sort of thing. And yeah, finally after 10 years, man, as well as a bunch of story updates and a bunch of story content, you are actually going to finally have crossplay. I don't know how they're going to do this, but crossplay and cross saves. So you will be able to have one account across all of your various devices. You will be able to save across all your various devices. I don't know how they're going to merge the accounts, and that kind of makes me nervous because I have a lot of stuff on two different ones. I don't necessarily want to lose any of it. But yeah, you'll finally have cross saves. You'll finally have crossplay. Thank you, Warframe, for finally pushing us into the next century. I know they were a little bit behind, but everybody should follow their lead. If you are a games as service in 2021 and you do not have plans to or are not crossplay or cross-platform compatible or at least cross saves, you're doing yourself a disservice, and I think you're going to start getting hurt because of it.
Yeah,
All right, so that's it for odds and ends, right, man?
I do believe so.
We can finish up and I can fucking go to sleep.
Sure.
Sure. I can't. I still have to edit a video.
Aw.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so that brings us to the end of the show and the shameless self-promotion that comes with it. Neil, co-host, buddy, 101. This is the first one of the next 100, man. So congratulations to us on that. But do you have anything specific you want to plug, buddy?
No. Just I'm here doing the podcast, and we just finished season 3 of Halo Infinite Road. We just finished Halo 3. And hopefully here soon we'll be recording the next set of stuff for the next one. We're going to be doing Halo 3 ODST, which is very interesting for me as I only played about 2 hours of that one back roughly shortly after it came out. So that's going to be the first Halo game that we've played on this. It's going to be a completely new experience for me. That's rare. So that'll be interesting.
Well, hey, I'm not far behind you because I played it once. I did play it through, but I don't remember anything that happened because my memory sucks because I'm old. So it'll be interesting. We are going to start playing it. That probably won't premiere until this is going up on Tuesday, so probably a week from Thursday after this goes up. So yeah, so you have to wait a little bit longer on that. As far as my plugs go, I don't have many special plugs to go. I'd love you to check out everything we have to offer. I am specifically proud right now of Stella's show. That's where me and my 5-year-old daughter play video games. I find it heavily entertaining. It's also pretty good, pretty easy watch, as we don't usually go past 15 minutes because she's 5. Um, so I like that. Also, please check out Wasteland 330 with me and Phil Billy. We're playing Wasteland, and we're also making community member characters. We've already made Jason, and we made Kev Tutal. We're planning on making you next, Neil, and then probably I think Danny, and then we're just gonna go from there and just make active community members in the thing. I think Filthy Phil's gonna be coming up too. So yeah, it's very fun. Please check that out. Other than that, we got a ton of stuff here. You can check out our streams. I'm currently streaming Mr. X Nightmare for Streets Rage 4 on Tuesdays, my lunch stream on Wednesdays, and every other Thursday, Sea of Noobs, which is Sea of Thieves. So please check those out as well. I think that's it. You guys, as usual, thank you for checking us out for 101 of these. You can talk to us on Facebook at OldManGamingDH, on Twitter at OldManGaming9. You can join our Discord, links in the description below. You can influence us in all of our shows from there. And as usual, guys, as long as you keep watching and listening, we will keep making it. See you guys next week. I think the Steam Deck is the coolest fucking thing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Man, I would be scared shitless though because you can't take the Joy-Cons off and replace them. Like I've had
Yeah, that's true.
Game
Yeah, that's true.
Boys, 3DS, the DS, this, that, and the other, and I never worried about, oh, what happens if I fucking snap it in half?
Right.
But now that I have something that's like that, that I can literally, oh no, the Joy-Con went bad. Oh, I guess I'll have to get a new one, and everything's fine. That shit scares the fuck out of me.
Yeah, no,
Just
I agree with that. I
that's
agree with that.
just like whenever I had when I was first getting smartphones, they all had keyboards and shit on them. I
Right.
was like, I always need a keyboard no matter what. And now they don't make them anymore with keyboards. It's
Right.
all just a giant screen. I remember the first phone that I had that was like that. I'm like, holy fucking shit. If this thing breaks on me, I'm screwed. I
Yeah.
can't use my phone. And it's something that you don't think about
Right.
until you're put in that position.
No, I agree with you.